So Trump's not doing anything.
Yeah.
It's not about Trump.
It's not about.
Oh,
What would I Google on YouTube to get a video for this?
Trump?
The U.S. Supreme Court. Oh, you could get the HBO Dog Supreme Court if you want.
Type in Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Did you really spell Supreme with an S-E?
Judge me.
Hey,
I am.
focus.
Anyway, so the first thing, let's say the first thing. We'll do the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I don't know if I got that right. Man, Lucy's really got me wanting to pronounce names
I'm
correctly.
not the judge here.
So the fourth-ranking congressional Democrat named Joe Crowley. He's been a representative, Democratic member of the House for New York, like different boroughs in New York, 2 different boroughs in New York, for 19 years. Has been defeated in a primary election by a 28-year-old woman named
Really?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Wow. Go
Yeah.
her.
So he's as incumbent as you can get. He's won so many of these things.
Okay.
He hadn't had a primary challenger in 14 years. So the primaries, for anyone who doesn't know, in their election system is like the final stage of the election system is the Democratic candidate versus the Republican candidate.
Yep.
But before you get there, each of the parties have their own selection process,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically an election, right? So the primary election is to elect who's going to stand in that election against the Republicans.
Okay.
And it should be a pretty safe Democrat seat. So I'm guessing she's basically going to win that at this point. So she's going to be the youngest woman ever to enter the House. Yeah,
Really?
the House of Representatives in,
How old was he, Sean?
I mean, the Congress.
28.
28.
28.
That's younger than me.
28.
Yeah.
It's younger than me.
Very young.
Is he younger than all?
That's her.
How old are you?
Older than me.
So she's a community.
her there.
She's a community organizer, a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. She's actually very left leaning compared to congressional members. She's very left leaning.
And left-leaning is
So similar
not what
to
Trump is.
similar to Bernie Sanders. Trump is, I guess he's conservative. Yeah,
At least
he's not traditionally anything.
Whatever he wakes up thinking.
He doesn't have an ideology, really.
Right.
He does whatever. It
He
doesn't
does
matter.
whatever
It's not
he
about
feels.
Trump. Anyway.
Okay.
This is like, because it's a Democratic seat, right? So the Democrats are probably going to win this at the election. This is more relevant to what's going on within the Democratic Party, because it was a similar thing last main election, when Bernie Sanders was challenging Hillary Clinton to be the party's nominee
Right.
for president, right? Bernie Sanders describes himself as a democratic socialist, right? So elements of socialism, but so socialism in America means advocating for free healthcare.
Yep.
Which we all have.
And communism.
Advocating
It's
for
not-
not having crazy fees for people to go to university, which
Right.
we already have.
So the government paying for things.
To Americans, everywhere else in the Western world is socialist.
Yes.
Right.
So when you say Bernie
Slash
Sanders is a
communist.
socialist, he's just kind of in the middle everywhere else. And like stricter gun controls. Like her main things are like getting rid of ICE, which is that immigration enforcement agency that keeps arresting people.
It's not the drug.
Yeah, no, I'm guessing she's not pro that either. But no, ICE is the immigration something enforcement. It's basically the guys who go in and check people's papers
Right.
to see if they have American papers. She wants a federal jobs guarantee, which I have no idea what that actually means. But universal healthcare and just other like left-wing things, like being really tough on Wall Street. And she didn't get a lot of donations because these like incumbent Democrat congressmen, they basically all get a lot of money from like big pharmaceutical corporations, big banks. To be honest, there's not that much difference between the centers on both parties. It's hard to imagine that they're not basically bought and paid for by big corporations because of the way that their system works. Traditionally, you've only ever won an election if you had a lot of money.
Because she represents the people without all the money.
Well, that's what Bernie Sanders did, right? He got most of his money from donations from normal people.
Right.
So he got so many donations. He smashed records for how many donations he actually got.
Wow.
But he would have had less money than Hillary Clinton, who would have gotten massive donations from a fewer sources, right? Who have a lot of money. So most of the idea of this is that it's impossible to be a politician who cares about people if the people who are getting you into power are corporations and stuff, right?
Yep.
So that's the mantra of most democratic socialists, like people like Bernie Sanders or her. So it's pretty amazing that she won. She had 1/10 of the money that the other guy had.
Yeah,
I wonder if
wow.
the internet plays into that. It's like,
Love it.
do you really need that
Maybe.
much money to put a YouTube video up that people watch and connect to?
It does seem like it could be easier. Does this mean she could be president, or am I completely
No,
wrong?
no, no, no. This means that she would be like a member for your district.
Right.
But
If she
eventually
wins
she
that
could be
election.
president.
Oh yeah,
right?
one day, absolutely. I think
Starting
there's
at-
actually a
starting your
minimum.
career so early.
There's a minimum age limit.
I think it'll be
on
44.
being the president.
Is there really?
It's 40 or
It's-
44.
yeah,
I
40
can't
something.
remember.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think it's in
So
the
she's got a
constitution
while
as well,
yet.
so you can't really change that.
It's not the worst law.
No,
No,
I
it's
don't
not.
think so either.
You want someone
I don't
aged.
want an 18-year-old being president.
You want a
I suppose.
marinated person.
It'll be
I
awesome
mean,
if she can
Probably
if
better
she
than
can
Trump,
get there.
but
It'll be awesome if she can get there and hold true to those principles of not
Yeah.
being sold out to a
True.
corporation, because I think people on both sides of the political spectrum have seen that
yeah.
and they don't like it.
Yeah.
So even people on the far right who are Trump supporters, one of the reasons they supported Trump was his argument that I'm really rich, I don't need to be bought. Countered that by asking for donations from people, which
Gotcha.
he got, like from the Koch brothers and
Classic.
stuff. So
Because you can't use your own money, could you?
no, I mean then
Koch
that'd
brothers.
be silly. Yeah, KOCH, billionaire brothers who support a lot of Republican stuff.
Right.
Yeah, well, just like there's a billionaire like named Sheldon Adelson who supports a lot of Democratic stuff. Like it all ends up the same anyway.
Yeah.
But it's pretty crazy. I don't know if it represents any kind of massive shift, but it's cool that she was able to win without
think
massive
so.
amounts of money and just through a
Yeah.
grassroots campaign.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and now she'll have the
girl.
Democratic Party behind her in the next stage, which is the actual election to determine who wins.
Oh,
She
so
is-
she's not in yet.
No, but the district she's in is a majority-minority district. The
What does
majority
that
of
mean?
people there are minorities.
Oh,
Minorities tend to vote Democratic.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Trump came out. Trump tweeted this.
Oh,
Said,
great.
"Wow, big Trump hater Congressman Joe Crowley, who many expected was going to take Nancy Pelosi's place, just lost his primary election. In other words, he's out. That is a big one that nobody saw happening. Perhaps he should have been nicer and more respectful to his president."
Stupidest
Trump
thing.
is saying that.
Yeah, we're pretty sure the reason that she's Alexandria's won is not because
She
Joe
was
Crowley was
nicer.
not nice enough to President Trump.
He's like the Taliban, eh? He just takes he takes responsibility for things that happen,
It's true.
but he actually had nothing to do with.
Yep, that was us.
Does that
Well,
work?
When
Yeah,
you say
but
when
that's
you
because-
explain it, it actually makes so much sense.
Yeah, because he has to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
And the news
How do I
always
make
gives it
this
to him.
about me?
Well, the news like always does what he wants, so makes him the center of everything. Anyway, so that's crazy. But then on the flip side, one of the Supreme Court justices has just retired,
Oh,
which is actually quite a big deal. So the Supreme Court is the court where all legal things
Law.
end up.
Yep.
They're the final say in judicial processes.
getting approved.
So they're the ones who approved gay marriage.
Ah.
They're the ones who upheld Roe vs. Wade. So basically, abortion is a right that you have access to.
Yep.
They've also done stuff like upholding the travel ban last week. And the way it goes is
Right.
if you're the president, when someone retires, there's always 9 of them.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the president, you get to choose their successor.
Okay.
So there's sort of an even split between generally conservative leaning justices and more liberal leaning justices.
Yep.
Well, there's like so much legalese terms that I don't understand, but there's different interpretations of how the law should work.
Yep.
But they're generally at the moment, it's basically 5-4 to the conservatives. So
Okay.
there's 5 justices who tend to lean conservative, and there's 4 that tend to lean against, and that's how the rulings come out. The travel ban was upheld 5-4 last week, conservative to liberal. They basically were split along those lines.
Yep.
The guy who's retiring is Anthony Kennedy, he was the most swing vote there was. So he's a conservative, but he would sometimes side
Yep.
with the liberal side. So I think he came out pro gay marriage. He was the reason it passed. And as in, like, there was a ruling that allowed gay marriage in all the 50 states, and it was
get that.
illegal.
It just seems like if that's the way the system works, why? And I guess Hopefully you'd think they wouldn't vote the same way the whole time, but do they all vote the same way the whole time except this guy?
Because you can tell what someone thinks usually, right? The presidents pick someone who's going to think what they think because they agree with them. So if they're a conservative president, they're going to pick a conservative person. Trump has already picked one because one of the conservative justices died during Obama's term, during Obama's second term, Antonin Scalia. And it should have, well, technically, according to the law, it's Obama's pick then, but he put forward someone and the Republicans controlled the Senate, so they blocked it because the Senate has to approve whoever the president picks.
Right.
And they blocked it for a whole year until Trump won.
Wow.
Because they knew if they lost to Antonin Scalia and it became their liberal replaced him, they would have been basically getting liberal judgments for
So it
however
doesn't
long.
matter what the president picks. It can always be...
It doesn't matter
blocked.
if the Senate can block it, but traditionally the Senate wouldn't have blocked it for that long. It hadn't happened before. So they were kind of playing games with it. If Antonin Scalia had died 3 years before Obama was going out, they wouldn't have been able to block it for 3 years. So it was crazy. And now there's going to be a new... So Trump's going to pick someone more conservative than Anthony Kennedy, who was a bit of a swing vote.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other ones. They're all quite old.
So these old men just decide everything.
No,
Do you
there's
think
three.
there's
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 three?
also an
Two-
age
two
limit
women.
to be a Supreme
Okay.
Court
3 women. There's
judge?
3 women.
It's my dream.
Not age-wise. They just retire.
You
altogether.
have to have been a judge forever, though, right?
No, not necessarily. I
And
think
it takes ages to become a judge.
I
doesn't
think
it?
it's up to the discretion of the president. I'm not sure what restrictions there are on picking them
Right.
because Trump, when he was talking about who he would pick, this was a massive factor in the election, in Trump getting elected, because conservatives who didn't like Trump, right? Not all people who voted for Trump like Trump. They can see that he's a pretty unpleasant person and he lies and all that stuff. It is obvious to them as it is to everyone else. But they knew he was going to get to pick a Supreme Court justice.
Okay.
And that's really important, especially like people who are anti-abortion. Like the only way they're ever going to turn it over is if they can flip the Supreme Court.
Yep.
So it was actually a massive reason as to why they voted for Trump in the first place.
Okay. Interesting.
It's interesting because now Trump might be able to use this as a way, because they have their midterm elections coming up. He might be able to use this as a way to energize his voters to get out and vote for him. So they might delay it until after those.
Does
They'll
he
be
have
like,
to get voted in again?
he doesn't have to get voted in, but the Senate is up for grabs. They have elections every 2 years. The president is only every 4 years, but the midterms are for half the seats of the Senate and the House of
I was asking the
Representatives.
question that Chris wanted to ask.
Give it up on questions.
There is an election, and it will potentially determine whether the Democrats or the Republicans hold the
Yes.
House and the
Okay.
Senate.
Understand.
Final
Yeah.
thoughts.
Final thoughts. It's pretty crazy. I guess they'll have a conservative majority for a long time, which will affect a lot of people's lives.
Well, that means
This is like a
things get,
generational
like turned
thing.
like
Yeah, so
Turned
abortion
around.
could come back up.
really.
Yeah, so there's 20 states that it's Roe versus Wade. It's the federal law that determines what they do. They'll probably have no abortions.
Wow.
Yeah, because it'll come up again then.
And gay marriage?
Not sure. Could be interesting. They'll probably see another gay wedding cake thing come up.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. This has more impact than most of what Trump does.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because everything else can be reversed, but you can't, fire a Supreme Court justice.
Right.
Oh, really?
What if they do something bad?
I'm not sure how bad a thing they would have to do.
They
I guess they would have to get arrested. Maybe
ran
if they're
someone
arrested,
over.
I guess you can't be a Supreme Court judge if you're in jail.
Do you reckon you could get out of it if you got, pulled over?
I don't think that goes to the Supreme Court.
If anything in House of Cards is true,
Yes,
they can get away with whatever they want.
That's true.
The president or the Supreme Court justice?
Everyone in politics, it
No.
seems like.
Yeah.
I don't think Supreme
As
Court
long as you
justice.
have a good enough guy who can cover up things for you, you seem to be all right.
That show got boring.
It did.
It also
No, it
got cancelled.
Yep.
I thought they were trying to make it without
They
Kevin
made
Spacey.
it without him.
Oh, did they?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Did you watch it without him though?
I didn't
It
watch it
hasn't
with
come
him.
out yet.
You sexist.
Has it come out yet? I don't think
I
it's
only
come out
watched
yet.
season 1.
I don't know. He came out. The show didn't come out.
Ayo.
knows how it works.
No,
Anyway.
he sexually assaulted someone.
No, he also came out at the same time.
He
I'm
did, but that was the less relevant thing.
like, yeah, but that was what was so funny about it. It's like, I sexual assaulted him. I'm gay.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, I don't know how to react to this.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's been it for Trend Settings. On that strange note, that has been it for Trend Settings
What a weird
episode
show.
94. We go everywhere. We talk about what's trending, what should be trending, what's hot. We've got a new show coming out maybe next week, maybe the week after, depending on how much time I got for it. My name is Ali.
I'm Jono.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Evelyn.
Thanks for watching at 8 p.m. on Facebook every Thursday night, or listening to on a podcast platform of your choice, except the Google one, which I'm trying to figure out how to get us onto, or YouTube. Either
What
way,
about
not on the Google
Spotify?
one?
thanks.
Are we on
it
Spotify?
It only became available like a week or two ago.
Oh, right.
It's not a
Okay.
thing. And Google podcast things don't like letting Australian sites put things on there.
Boo.
Really?
Racist.
That
Yeah.
is racist.
Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.